it worked. I'm not. Let me see if I can verify without. Yes, it looks like we are live. We are live.
Baron confirms.
All right. Let's see. Do we have? Oh, hey, Baron. Welcome. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and ring us in. Welcome to Biggus Geekus. This is Joe without Randy today, but with OG GM and Bruce Lombardo of Dick's Division. This is episode 66 of the podcast, and the date is Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. How's it going, fellas?
I'm doing pretty well. It was a good Tuesday, the 14th of December, and I have no complaints. I'm still alive, and I think tomorrow I'm going to wake up on this side of the dirt again.
Hopefully so.
All is well in my part of the world, despite the unusual weather, but thank you for asking.
As well as it can be in California?
Yeah, we're seeing some real weather. Most of the Californians, of course, are in shock.
Real weather as in more than just sun?
Yeah, we're having a atmospheric river.
Oh, that thing. Wasn't there one a couple of weeks ago too?
Yeah. We're getting some much needed rain to take care of those burnt hills.
Groovy. All right. It looks like we have Baron G Rock in the comments, and for those of you who will be listening to this later on in podcast form, which it will be eventually, this is the first ever Biggus Geekus live stream on Twitch, where we have actual live comments and some great representation from the Gatekeepers and slash a Legion of Myth crew on their Discord. It looks like we have Baron G Rock active there in the comments. And we have a health report for Max of Legion of Myth. It seems like he's almost dead.
From a tetanus shot?
That's what his wife is saying. Hello, Noro.
Hi, Noro.
Hi, Noro.
Noro, give Max everything he wants, and he'll probably pull through okay. The big, healthy smile on his face. Make sure he's wearing his mullet. He loves his mullet.
His mullet.
Have you seen his mullet?
No. Is it a wig?
It is.
Oh, no. I've never heard of that.
Oh, no. He's done some older streams on the Legion of Myth, and he's done some very naughty boy streams, and they're pretty funny. But seeing him in that mullet, trying to play a 40-year-old man that should not be playing the games he's playing, it made me laugh far too hard. I'll just say that. It's bad. I mean, it's great, but it's bad.
I would love to see that. That'd be cool. Well, he's talked about it when he had longer hair, when he was younger.
Yeah.
Well, normally we do call-ins and emails. We had no call-ins. We are part of a we distribute our podcast on Anchor normally, and there is kind of a tradition with the Anchor. They call themselves the Anchorites, the Anchor podcasters, where they will call into each other. There's a function on the Anchor website which sucks. The function works though, where you can leave a voicemail, and we didn't get any this time around, but we did get an email from Web Warrior, who is I believe I froze on the Legion of Myth Discord. Asked a few questions. I think I'm going to reserve this for when Randy's back, and some of it goes to him as well. So, but thank you for that email. He asked a few questions about why did we start the podcast, what kind of setting we prefer, and class to play. I prefer wizards, but paladins as well. What about you folks?
My preferred class to play, clerics or rogues.
I'm a cleric person as well, but if we are overloaded with clerics and don't have a paladin, I'll go with a paladin. And if nobody's playing a wizard, I can double up, or I could go for a wizard. But typically, I'm a forever DM.
Got it. Well, I'm lucky most of the time since I live here, and Randy is usually willing to run a game. I haven't really had to do a lot of DMing.
You guys live up in the Great White North, eh?
Well, we live in Michigan.
Okay.
In Michigan, I wouldn't consider anything south of the UP to be considered the Great White North. But I'm not originally from Michigan, so other Michiganders may disagree. So we have this thing that happened. I'm not sure if it happened today or just very, very recently, where Wizards of the Coast dropped a giant errata bomb.
Yes.
And decided to cleanse their books of problematic language, apparently. I'm not sure if there's anything else besides that. I haven't had a chance to look at it too closely.
They changed a spell.
That wasn't, well, I know they changed Counterspell a while back.
Yeah, Counterspell, and apparently there's already complaints and changes being made to one of the new spells from Strixhaven.
Oh, well, the Counterspell thing, unless this is a different Counterspell thing, that happened quite a couple of months ago, at least.
Some of the errata that was dumped is old stuff that they're just,
okay.
Showing, hey, remember in April when we said this, here it is again.
Oh, well, yeah, I remember hearing about the Counterspell thing, which I remember hearing about it, but I don't remember the details. I do also remember that they're kind of messing with how they do monsters so that'll be less impactful for them. And because their abilities will no longer be spells exactly.
Yes.
So I think that might be the big thing, right?
It's I guess one of the more interesting choices they made.
As far as Counterspell goes.
Yeah. The counterspells and the monsters, yeah. Because whether you can or cannot counter the spell attacks, yeah. That would be the big change.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems the rest of it was what I can do is share a screenshot of what someone posted. Not sure how big I can make this one. It doesn't look like too big. That's going to be hard to see. I can do this Twitter. The Twitter post looks like it's a little bit. Yeah, that'll work. All right. So. Okay. No, not that one.
Nora's counting all the bills versus all the death benefits she gets right now.
Is it more expensive to keep him alive or let him die?
I think it's going to be cheaper for her to keep him alive.
Well, Nora, it depends what kind of shapes Max is in. A liver can go for $25,000. I don't know why I would know that.
That's interesting. Have you been consorting with some organ snatchers recently?
No, I read it on Twitter.
Thank God.
I don't know how much a single square inch of flesh can get you on the black market or how much an eye can get you. Why would I know that?
Oh.
That is a funny but macabre thought, yes.
Well, those are the kinds of thoughts that a modern day wizard might contemplate because of spell components and whatnot. All right, so I've got this up on the screen here for all to see, except for those folks out in
that's one of them.
podcast land.
Well, they did errata for pretty much every book, but most of it is repetitive.
Right. There's a paragraph they like. When you're role playing a insert whatever, the following tables contain possible inspiration. They suggest characteristics that the whatever it is might possess. Instead of telling you what the essential nature of the creature or character is, they essentially say it could be anything.
Yep.
Because nothing has an essential nature apparently anymore in D&D.
Yep. Nothing. No more. Yeah. For anybody who's keeping track, alignment is gone again. It came back for a little bit, but now it's gone again.
Right. Role-playing a kobold. This section has been removed. Orcs as underlings. This sidebar has been removed.
What if I want to play a sentient bomb from 1974's Dark Star? And I think 3 people in chat got that.
Wow. It's been a long I tried watching Dark Star, but it didn't I don't remember the sentient
That's
bomb
the
part.
only part of that movie worth watching. And you can find it on YouTube. And then after that, you just find a different clip to watch of a different movie, and just remember happier times.
Yeah. Right. All right. So I guess the general thing is the continuing saga of Wizards of the Coast insistence on nothing having any sort of
lore. Yeah. The thing is,
right.
is their whole big thing was because our lore is so problematic, and so many people said they want that to go away because nobody pays attention to it anyways, we're going to take it away. And now everybody's saying, why did you get rid of the lore? Now you just cut and paste the exact same thing across 20 different books. This is boring.
Right. I mean, it was with all the shenanigans with the character races being essentially the same blob of goo.
Yeah.
This just makes that the same thing with everything across the board, not just the character races.
Yeah, everything is just now a gray blob of glue.
Yeah. Good job, Wizards of the Coast. You will continue to get none of my money, though they don't really care. They don't care.
They've gotten none of my money for so many years.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think they're going, oh my God, we didn't get any money from Bruce this month. We're dead. We're so dead.
I know.
So I wonder how much of this they can continue to do, because this is, in my opinion, a very poor design choice, even for folks who are potentially who like Wizards of the Coast. If you make it the game, their lore even more bland than it is, eventually even those guys are going to start, saying, "What are you doing?"
I think that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are just basically going to start going, well, you're not giving me anything, so I can make stuff up, which means I don't have to buy that book because I can just make stuff up. In fact,
yeah,
I can get your rules for free online, so why even buy your starter book?
Right. Okay.
At this point, it makes no sense as to why somebody would want to start investing in 5e. It really, I mean, if you want to be a completionist and get 3 shelves of your current apartment or living quarters occupied, it's a great way to quickly do it. But I wouldn't suggest, hey, this is going to be a legacy game. It's going to be around forever.
We all know somebody who would disagree with you, but yes.
Well, as soon as they
they're getting ready for what is ever going to happen in 2024. That just the thing is, it still feels like they don't know what they're doing in 2024. like, we're going to do something. We just don't know what yet. We just don't know what it is yet, but we're going to do something.
Right. So shall we move along to saving or sucking?
Sure.
Yes.
Spells, that is.
Oh, okay.
So, Baron, whatever does that mean? The multiple poop emojis. Last week I kept. I just did a play on our Biggus Geekus because someone said poop on the live stream, so I changed Biggus Geekus to Biggest Poopus, and Baron G Rock was tickled by it. Apparently,
he does like the poop humor.
Right. Oh, do I have that handy? I have. You can get plush dolls of the emojis.
Yes.
And
I'm Sir Patrick Stewart. I'm poop.
I was able to snag a poop emoji.
Awesome.
Plush pillow. And yeah.
See, I'm just surprised that he starred in that movie as that character.
Which movie was that?
The Emoji Movie.
Oh, I never saw that.
Neither did I. I just know, thank God for the clips from YouTube. Patrick Stewart voiced the poop. Award-winning voice did the poop.
Well, I mean, sometimes you just do things for fun, I suppose.
I'd like to know why he did Picard. Oh, wait. Never mind. I don't want Garrett to rage.
Yeah, because I haven't seen it, but what I've seen of it is tells me I'm not really missing anything.
You're not missing anything.
Right. All right. So save or suck. What are these things called save or suck? There's a lot of good examples from. This is pretty much D&D related. I don't know enough about the other systems to know whether or not they have equivalents. I'm sure they do, but they're pretty well known in the D&D arenas because people have a lot of opinions around them. Something like Finger of Death. I believe some of the versions of D&D between TSR's version and WotC's version, and Pathfinder have softened the blow a bit on some of them. Finger of Death used to just be
save or die.
Save or die. I think in later versions it was an amount of damage, which was a good amount, but still, I don't think it was the save or die like it used to be.
Yeah, Finger of Death is what, 7th level or 5th level?
It's the highest level cleric spell, so whatever that is.
9th for most games.
Well, it would be 9th in the more recent versions, but clerics used to be maxed out at 7th, and I think druids too.
Yep.
Used to be. So it might have been 7th at the time. I can look it up.
Another quality spell that's in save or suck territory is Feeble Mind.
Disintegrate.
Disintegrate has a minor hindrance if you save. Up to 30 points of disintegration damage if you save, and lots if you don't.
Right. It used to just be you save or become a pile of dust. No damage otherwise.
Yeah, Feeble Mind's a good one.
Right, because you're just, you're out of action. So I have the first edition player's handbook. And Finger of Death is a 7th level druid spell.
Damn.
And I think it was just a druid spell, unless I'm remembering incorrectly. Yeah, looks like it's just a druid spell. That may have changed in other editions, but it was a druid spell, 7th level. And I believe it took a while for them to get that level spell.
Yeah. Well, I think it was, meant to be sort of a bad guy spell originally.
Yeah.
Right. And
Wand of Orcus was just, bam, death ray, blam.
Right. But Pathfinder and I think 3rd edition changed that as well to being just a lot of damage.
Orcus got nerfed too.
Right. So I guess with the druids, since they have to fight each other at those high levels, there's only 9 druids at 12th level or higher.
Yep.
So there's not too many folks slinging in that version of the game, slinging that finger of death around. What do you think about something like Domination? Would that be like a save or suck? Probably. Domination. Yeah. Sleep in some versions you didn't even get a save. Like in old D&D and 1st edition, there was no save.
Yep. How many hit die do you affect?
Yeah, you're asleep.
Up to 4 + 1.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the 1st level death spell for a long time because you just put everybody to sleep and then.
In the Beckme, it was the maximum hit die creature you could affect was 4 + 1, but you could affect up to 16 hit dice of creatures.
Yeah,
with a 1st level spell, and they would all be dead. I mean, they will eventually. They'd all be asleep, no save.
That was my go-to spell, but Pool of Radiance.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That was your go-to spell in Pool of Radiance, the video game.
Yeah, for
right.
4 levels.
Yeah, I mean it's good for quite a long time, especially if you're just low level. If you remain in the low levels a lot, it has lots of use. Color Spray was a pretty devastating spell as well.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. You're blind. You're stunned. You're blind forever.
Yeah. It had a variety of effects depending. I believe that was an illusionist spell early on. Color Spray for illusionists.
Yeah. And Chromatic Orb too.
Chromatic Orb. Well, Chromatic Orb, once you got to a certain level, Chromatic Orb was a death spell as a 1st level spell, which is kind of weird. When I saw that, I was like, you mean wizards can't have that? Wizards should have all the spells.
That's just how I feel about wizards, period. Oh, is that arcane? Yeah, it's wizards.
It's a wizard spell. But of course, no. Illusionist got the best. A lot of people think that that's one of the best 1st level spells, period, from that version of the game.
No, yeah. I mean, Color Spray and Chromatic Orb, yeah.
Pretty good.
Just so devastating to the bad guys. But if your bad guys cast it on the players, they get so upset.
Right.
This is why they had to change all the save or suck spells, because players got upset. It's like, it's okay if I cast it on the bad guy, but your bad guys can't cast it on me.
Right. Well, what do you think about something that's not necessarily a spell, but it's more of an effect, like a skill roll, especially in 3rd edition and perhaps Pathfinder, perhaps more so in Pathfinder, something like Diplomacy. If you had a high enough total on your roll, I don't know if you could make them your minion, but you could take someone who might even hated you before you opened your mouth, and after one roll, you could just have them totally on your side and doing what you say.
Shooting from your hand and
getting
their sister to fuck and marry, all sorts of shit.
Right. So that's in the same realm.
Yeah, it definitely is. Once a skill gets high enough, and in which was easy to do in Pathfinder. At what point,
Right.
At some point you're just bending the laws of physics. I've got stealth at 30. I'm invisible.
Right. Some alternative ways that have come across in different versions of the game were gradual effects.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Oh, well, this is in a 13th Age version of the Medusa, where you'd start out, it would be difficult for you to move. You'd eventually be paralyzed, and you would then eventually become stone if your buddies couldn't save you.
Yeah, no, that's unique to that system, I guess.
It's kind of a video game thing.
Yeah.
I think trying to remember the name of the game, but anyway, you have a little bubble over your head with a countdown timer. They would do it with a death spell. They would do it with turn to stone. Final Fantasy. There you go. I forgot. I don't know why I forgot that. I think that was it might have been 7, might have been an earlier one. But yeah, it had a little bubble,
A lot of them.
countdown, and if you didn't do anything, throw a feather at them. There was a feather you could do. You could take it away.
Yeah, they do that in Darkest Dungeon.
Is that an OSR clone?
No, it's a video game.
Oh, it's a video game. Okay.
It's a really good video game, but don't get attached to your characters.
Yeah. if you want the that whole dark, grim, depressing experience in a video game, Darkest Dungeon's the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it says it in the title there. Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah, I gotta say that for save or die spells, I kind of want the gradual effects until I go into a combat where all of my players have heroes with leadership and they brought their cohorts along, because their cohorts are nothing but thick necks, thick neck Tony types, and they're gonna just get in the way and completely obliterate any and all opposition that I have scripted for the night. Just utterly kill the bad guys. There's not going to be much but an initiative roll, and that'll be it. And I think, no, I don't want to do gradual effects like 13th Age. I'm good.
Well, I think you could have a situation with knowledge that save or die is on the table, that you would eventually, you're either the bad guys or the players would eventually get catch a clue. We better be careful here, or death magic is going to get slung around eventually.
Yikes.
So that's one reason I think it's good to have it in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It makes people take care, or you could end up having a target on your chest. So my character in Randy's game is a wizard and has sleep, and he'll pull it out when it's necessary. But if folks survive, eventually when they see my character, they're either going to say, much respect, don't cast your spell on us, please, or they will open fire before we get a chance to talk. So it can make for an interesting atmosphere in the game.
Yes, definitely agree. That threat, that one spell could devastate.
The implied threat of spellcaster with a robust spell selection.
Right. I mean, that you could say, oh, he's going to cast magic missile. That's paltry damage. I mean, it's going to hurt, but I can take that. But oh, he could cast sleep, and I'm toast.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I mean, I think it's good in the game. It's one of the things that old school game have a better feel, and the newer school games lack that, or the save or suck, save or die.
Save or suck is pretty much gone.
Yeah, they and it's, you know, the caster's going to cast a spell. It's probably only going to do X amount of damage. I have this many hit points. I'll be fine.
Yeah, people don't want to have a moment when they have no control over their character's fate, but that was the general belief. So that's why so many spells were changed to reflect that you're no longer in a position where you're out of control. Even spells you wouldn't think they'd change, like Hold Person. It's like, no, apparently people got upset because their character couldn't act for 1d4 rounds, so we had to change that too.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably whiny people that made these changes. Max posted something, and I forgot about this with the Chromatic Orb. You had to hit with it because it's basically a little orb you throw.
Yeah.
And Chromatic Orb was in the second edition Wizard's Handbook as well. And there was damage and a secondary effect. And then there was the Thaco, which was the Wizard's Thaco, which really wasn't any good.
That's really not Thaco. Once every 3 levels. Woo!
Right. I have to text back to my wife. 6 p.m. Right. So I'm not sure if it worked that way in first edition, if you had to make it to hit. Probably did. I should look it up because that would be interesting. I mean, there's no to hit roll with sleep. You just go down. Oh, okay. That might have. It doesn't look like it's. I thought that was. I may have misspoke. Color spray is in here. But I'm not seeing Chromatic Orb. I guess that's what he was saying. It's only in the Wizard's Handbook, not in. Yeah, we were talking about color spray, and I was thinking Chromatic Orb as well. Right. So no.
Chromatic Orb you had to hit, but then the big threat was always the secondary effect, not the bit of damage.
Yeah. Barry G-Rock is bringing up Glitter Dust.
Glitter Dust is another,
Yeah, Glitter Ball pissed a lot of people off, but then you realize, nope, that's Glitter Dust.
Yeah. You're not invisible anymore, and you're outlined, so we get bonuses to hit you.
Mm-hmm.
This one didn't give a chance to blind people, did it? That wasn't Glitter Dust. So maybe I'm thinking of a different spell. It's just makes anything invisible visible in its area. There's no blindness. That's color spray.
Yeah, but that was the reason wizards progressed so slowly compared to everybody else, is that even a wizard with one spell at first level, sleep, is just a game changer. And that's, there's so many complaints about how wizards were wusses in the old versions, but really even, at first level, when you're tossing out one sleep, that completely changes the entire outlook of the combat. And then you look at the higher level stuff, and once they hit that, third level sweet spot, then everybody else is just sort of, that was always the threat / reward for playing a wizard, to make up for the fact you had the worst saving throws, the worst hit points,
the worst everything else, pretty much.
The worst, you couldn't wear any armor.
You're a glass cannon.
Yeah, you're a glass cannon, but when you hit that sweet spot, then everybody's afraid of you. And then when you got to those really high level spells like Death Ray and Finger of Death, Disintegration,
Right. So I guess glitter dust does blind as well. So I thought I remembered that correctly. So yeah, I think in first edition with the different experience points charts, like you're saying, it takes longer to progress as a wizard in the earlier editions. That kind of justified their power later on, where they were kind of weak early on, even though they had a couple of spells that were very effective. They only had a couple, and they could only cast very few. Later on, they had a fairly powerful spells, but it took a long time to get there. They might be 2-3 levels behind everybody else. All right. So
yeah, old wizards were hardcore.
Right. So do you think that they having those kinds of spells, I think I was saying this earlier, that it imparts a kind of style in your game as opposed to more current games where spells are kind of muted. I mean, they're still powerful. Higher level spells are powerful, but if it's a lower level spell, it doesn't have the impact that some lower level spells had in the early game.
I think the spells of the older edition, and they've been brought up in like Pathfinder and got retrofitted back to what they were in first and second ed in the OSR community. I think keeping those spells at a high potency level is very important.
Yeah.
I think that's why the wizard has the punch that he does, because otherwise there's no allure to it. You have a mediocre spellcaster that doesn't have an ability to hit very well. He doesn't have the ability to save versus oncoming magical attacks. He's basically going to be the last one to die because he was the first one to be able to turn around and run away. And that's basically how I feel about it. Unless you have him outfitted and kitted up properly with spells that do promote a save or die theory, or they do automatic damage like magic missile, something like that. But you have to have those spells that do provide you a reason to want to play a wizard, because you want to discover these things and give one more type of tool for your toolbox so you can dish that out whenever it's time to throw down.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to meander there, but
No, that's great.
I think the wizard needs those spells, and I mean,
it's the threat of those high level spells in the hands of the bad guys,
and that's perfect. That's called balance.
Yeah, and people will say it's not balanced, but it is balanced because by the time you're high enough level to go up against the bad guy that can do the death spell, then you're probably got enough crap on you that you can maybe survive it.
Yes.
So it was the challenge of getting to there to be able to toss out that 10d6 fireball, to be able to toss out that death ray, and to be able to go toe to toe with the lich who could raise one finger and kill a party member. That threat is why those spells were so rare and so powerful and so frightening. And sure, were they fair? Absolutely not. Is Tomb of Horrors fair the way it was originally written? Absolutely not. That's the whole point.
Yeah, you don't play these games because you want a fair game. If you want to play a fair game, you can go find any League of Legends or something on the web to amuse yourself. But Dungeons and Dragons, playing a wizard is not fair. You are stacking a table against you. And there's other systems like you guys were talking about, Arcane Evolved, where you have the Magister where he gets some mediocre spells, but he has opportunities to buy really good spells by spending feats on them for the exotic spells and learning how to cast those. And if you make your own campaign or own rule set where you take the best of both worlds and you start integrating just various things you find as you stumble over game system after game system after edition, you'll create a real large opportunity for role players and for tacticians, min-maxers, to wander within your game world and just find a panacea to play with. And I think the Saber die spells are wonderful for first and second edition, and for Beckme. I think they're great.
I agree. It does provide a certain tone to the game, which is adventuring is dangerous, which is what Max is saying here. Not just the bad guys; those spells are important for all wizards. Just the threat of that ability. Do you want to take on a wizard? Attack at your own risk. So it's either let's all dogpile the wizard and make him into wizard mincemeat, or they back down and say, okay, we'll listen to what you have to say.
Yep, totally.
I think if a wizard adventured around with a bard, and we'll just say Pathfinder, and the bard was a diplomacy master, and I don't know if you've ever seen the movie called Darkness Rising, but pretty much the bard, when it came to any social interaction, if he wanted to seduce a straight white male with a natural 20 or a natural 19 or with anything over a 2, it would happen. I could totally seduce any homophobe with that role, is one of the quotes. It's a great movie, and it perfectly embodies the camp and the humor level that we had back in 2006 when it was released.
Right. I think I've seen that when we did have video stores, like Blockbuster, when that was still a thing. I've seen it on the shelf. I've never seen it, but I've heard of it.
I'll get you a link. Baron, will you do me a favor and get a link for that in the Gatekeepers chat? Thank you. It's on YouTube.
Oh, it's on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Great. Hey, can you guys cover for me for just a few moments? I believe my dogs are whining to go outside.
Sure, no problem. Go for it.
As long as they're not huskies, it'll be great. Oh, it snowed? Oh, we're staying out here until morning. You with us? Oh, God.
All right, yes. And thanks for hosting, and hopefully you're all subscribed to Biggus Geekus, and if you're not subscribed to Biggus Geekus, subscribe.
Yeah, and subscribe to them on YouTube because they have a very amazing channel. Their podcasts are just a pair of guys going through the various aspects of this wonderful tabletop hobby.
Yep.
Maximilian says, not just bad guys, the spells are important for wizards. The threat of that ability. Do you want to take on a wizard? Attack at your own risk. And then Baldahar says, your dogs are whining? Nora told me the same thing a few minutes ago, and she kicked Max outside.
Poor Max. He gets no love.
He really doesn't. And right now, the injection is just, I guess, turning him over, treating him like Sally.
Maybe they, hid something in that injection.
Yeah.
Hot sauce.
Cayenne pepper.
Yeah.
I put that in my soup tonight. I had a really good soup.
What kind?
It's a Mexican blend of tomatoes. It's like a Mexican tomato soup, starts with a P. And if I said it, I would probably butcher it.
Pozole?
Yes. I think that's it.
That sounds amazing.
And I added a can of chicken to it because I'm a huge chicken fanatic whenever it comes to canned chicken and soups. I love that. I can't stand chicken. I love canned chicken. Stupid thing. Put that in there. Then I added 2 eggs and swirled it until I saw little bits of egg soup dripping around, or egg bits floating around. So I was pretty happy. I had a protein soup.
Keep you warm.
Yes. Well, it actually kind of got down to 50 degrees last night. So I was expecting the same thing to happen tonight. we in South Texas, I'm not a native down here, but when it gets down past 60 degrees, everybody starts wearing their North Face jackets. It's quite humorous. Oh man, I'm ready for the ski slope. Whew. Max says my right arm looks like a 15-year-old who masturbates too much and forgets to switch hands meme.
Ow! What did they do to you?
Oh, Max.
Tetanus shot.
What type of shot did you take, Max? And don't say it was from the P word or the M word or the J and J words.
Well, he said it was tetanus, but
I had a tetanus shot last year, and no, it was this year, and it was a prelude to me going into the hospital. Like 3 weeks later, I'm dying. I don't know if they're putting in the tetanus shots, but Baldahar's like, is this 15-year-old right or left-handed? I'm trying to decide if I'm supposed to picture Popeye or olive oil. Oh boy. Max's arm reminds me of Popeye, Baldahar. And we all know why. Noro threw his ass down the stairs to teach him a lesson. I knew it. I knew it. She's abusing him. Max is like, I've never reacted to a tetanus shot before.
that's because it wasn't tetanus, Max.
Whatever they gave you, I don't think it was. I don't think it was just tetanus. So he's never reacted to a tetanus shot before. Max is slow. She threw him a few times as Baldahar, and then Max says, I live in the South. We don't have basements here. Stop it. And that's true. We don't have basements in Texas where I live, and I miss those. My dad sent me photographs of his Lionel train set, and he hasn't had Lionel since he was a little kid growing up. And I was just so happy for my father. My dad's a geek of a man, older geek, not into computer geek stuff. But my dad gets this flyer in the newspaper on Sundays from Menards home improvement stores. And this is a friendly tip that I'm going to give you guys here on the Biggus Geekus channel. If you want to do some modeling, I will tell you that when Menards does their flyers for the Sunday sales for the week, if you look at their doors, the doors are scaled perfectly for O-scale figurines on your set. So if you have a train set, or if you have a grandfather with a train set and you want to spruce up their houses a bit, go to work with your clippers and clip out some of those really nice doors in the Menards home improvement flyer. And you can do this with the drywall stuff. My dad's got all sorts of stuff where he's made his home improvement store on his O-scale like the apple of the eye sort of thing. You want to take photos of that. You want to take like 6 or 7 photos of that site in and of itself, because he's got so much detail on it.
Cool. Way to go, Dad.
How did you get into the hobby?
Which hobby? There's so many.
Tabletop.
My backwards story of how I became into gaming.
Sure.
I'd say my origin story, if you haven't heard it, is a little backwards compared to most origin stories. Mm-hmm. Is that I came to the hobby through figures. My first introduction to the hobby was there was a store, and I still remember it clear as day. 40 some odd years later, it was the second floor of the Glendale Galleria. There was a teeny little store that sold pewter figures, like those pewter dragons and pewter fairies. And then for some reason, intermixed with those, the guy also had like old lead figures from like the old war games. Oh. So he had like an army of Russian soldiers. And then for some reason, he had a setup of figures that were from the Lord of the Rings. And I saw that store the very first time. I'm like 7 years old. I was just lost. They had to drag me out. I was just so entrenched. And so the next time we went back, I asked the guy, what are these from? He goes, oh, have you heard of Dungeons and Dragons? So of course I'm like, 6, 7 years old. I'm like, Santa, I don't know what this Dungeons and Dragons is, but please give it to me. So then on Christmas, there it was, the original box with the, men, myth, and magic wilderness thing. And I'm just like, I don't know what this is, but it's amazing. So there was like 2, 3, 4 years of just me trying to figure this game out and playing with my brother and then just sort of backwardsing our way through what would be eventually become Dungeons and Dragons until I moved to the San Fernando Valley. And then everybody started playing a game called Villains and Vigilantes. So my first actual gaming group was a bunch of kids playing Villains and Vigilantes. So I actually am sort of backwards and how I got into D&D. What about, yeah.
I was a trained hobbyist all my kid years, and this was something that I couldn't get into. Mom and Dad believed the satanic panic, and so we didn't ever really get into D&D, although Mom did buy me some Choose Your Own Adventure books by Rose Estes, and it was a gateway drug because it was kind of cool to read The Mountains of Mirrors or Return to Brookmere or The Dungeon of Dread. Really cool stuff. And got a chance to read those and reread those and try different pathing and such. And I just wanted to get into it. And at the age of 14, I bought the Star Wars D6 system at a Star Trek convention. And I bought that and brought it home, and I started running that for my friends because all of us had parents that wouldn't let us play D&D. So we played that instead. And then it was about 2 years later, I turned 18. No, 4 years later, I turned 18, and I started buying D&D stuff because I figured I can do what I want with my money. And Mom was kind of upset. But when I went out to boot camp for the Navy, my Call of Cthulhu stuff and my D&D stuff kind of disappeared. So that happened. And I think Max is leaving us. He says he's needing this thing called sleep. What's this? Oh, hey, Joe's back.
See you tomorrow to talk about gods. I've done my research.
Yay.
Good night, Max.
Guess Noro's putting him back in the cage.
She's going to use that arm. Nora's going to use that arm of his to help destroy the gazebo. Get her XP.
Is it? Yeah. Girly gazebo. Maybe they're going to make a less girly gazebo.
Can you really have a masculine gazebo?
Well, you can have a gender neutral gazebo.
Make it out of like barbed wire. Yeah, it could be, very masculine.
Well, sure. You could have gun turrets and paint it, earth tones, dark, black and brown, that kind of thing.
Connect the sound system to it so it plays Fortunate Sound all the time.
Yeah. It's got spikes up running across it like a mohawk.
Lining the rain gutters with barbed wire.
Yeah. It's got tattoos.
You'll save no money. You'll save no money. Save no money when you shop Menards. And he says there's more Menards than Starbucks in Minnesota. I believe that. That's pretty interesting.
Oh, that is funny. So, yes, reversible. Right. So, one of the more dreadful, save or suck spells is actually a reverse of a beneficial spell, like heal. So, in the first edition and pretty much in second edition as well, there could memorize heal and automatically reverse it. And what the reverse of it was harm. And you lose all your hit points save a D4, which somebody, a goblin could walk up to you and smack you, and then you would die.
Yes.
So
yes.
I mean, it's not save or die, but it is definitely save or suck.
And it was a radius, if I remember correctly.
No, it's one creature. You touch one creature.
Oh, maybe that was a different one I was thinking of. I know there was one that was a circle of healing, but if you reversed it, it was just circle of death.
Well, there's Creeping Doom, which is the big carpet of insects that the druid unleashes. But also heal
Doom, another one that got nerfed. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
It's unfair to insects. You can't have a spell that does that.
Oh, they're only insects. Right. So the reverse of heal, which is harm, you also get disease. So not only are you bereft of all your hit points, but a D4, you also have a disease, which is awesome fun. Creeping Doom. There it is. Creeping Doom.
It's just a fun spell.
Right. So there are up to 1,000 biting insects in it. The Creeping Doom will slay any creature subject to normal attacks so that up to 1,000 hit points of damage can be inflicted on creatures within the path of the Creeping Doom. It's a little vague. I guess it's up to 1,000 hit points, and then once one of the insects bites you, it dies. So it can only do 1,000 hit points of damage total. Only, considering folks' hit points in that version of the game wasn't very high.
Yeah, I mean that's 1,000 hit points is a village.
Yeah, and even a high level party might not have 1,000 hit points among them.
Yeah,
you get your party and all of your hirelings, your horses, everything.
Very biblical spell.
Yeah. But I guess I think in the way that there's a different kind of balance in the old game that we were talking about earlier, where at low levels, a cleric, a first level cleric doesn't even have any spells.
No, he's just a fighter that can turn undead.
And not a very good fighter. So, but once they have enough spells to be able to call them a repertoire, they can be pretty fearsome. The clerics have always been, in my opinion, especially once they get a few levels, a little OP because they have the spells, they have decent, though not fighter level combat. Plus, they can. The weapon choices aren't great, but they're not bad.
They can use every weapon a fighter can, except for swords and bows. They are the most broken class in the game, every edition, no matter what.
Yeah, and heavy armor.
There's nothing they can't do.
Well, in Pathfinder, I don't think the clerics get heavy armor unless their deity allows it, according to the Galarian rules.
Yep.
Yeah, there's that too, because I think that third edition introduced the whole simple weapon, martial weapon concept.
Yeah.
And clerics could only use simple weapons.
Yeah. And their deities chose
their deity's weapon.
Yeah. Right. So if their deity happened to have a decent weapon choice, then they're rocking.
Yeah, exactly.
The war deities will be able to use swords.
Yeah, give you swords. The archery hunting deities gave you bows. The lumberjack deities gave you a chainsaw.
That's funny. I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay.
Roll these 5 dice 6. If it's a treant, it needs to save versus death.
But yeah, they had a different concept of balance, which was over the course of your career in the early game. In the more recent games, game versions, the balance was more like balance between the classes.
Yeah.
So all the classes had to be, or they tried to make it so that the classes had were balanced with each other because they have the same experience point chart. I don't know that they really accomplished that.
The
I mean,
idea.
I don't think in third
There
edition
was
they did.
yeah, for like 5 minutes they accomplished it, but then of course they shot themselves in the foot.
With their gigantic amount of books.
Yes.
After 7th level, even in the core rulebook alone, you would have a character that was, if you knew how to optimize, you would be able to create a small monster at 7th level.
The hooker god gave you hookers. Yep.
Hooker lumberjacks. I don't know. I've never heard of that one.
I can only imagine the UP is filled with them. Oh, you want to stay warm this winter, eh? My bad. Not making fun of all Michiganders.
I'm not originally Michigander, so I have no real loyalty to Michigan.
Yeah.
Especially considering our wonderful governor. So,
third rail.
So do you prefer, I mean, what do you guys think about save or suck spells? Are they a bad idea, good idea? I mean, did we kind of touch on that already? I like them.
No, they're a great idea for a theme, for, this is my goal. I want to get to the ability where I can do this. Motivation, the implied threat that a spellcaster might have this in their arsenal and whip it out. And when you're dealing with a wizard, you don't know what he memorized for the day. Is today the day he memorized death spell? Or is today the day he memorized create bridge? I have to always assume today is the day he memorized death spell and go and act accordingly, That was the implied threat, especially at higher levels when you're dealing with like liches and dragons. And of course, they took that away.
Well, even median levels when you're just like a Medusa.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean any spell that took you out.
Yeah, because
go ahead.
And had a very specific, only one specific way to get rid of it, like paralyzation. Again, yeah, just the implied threat.
Right, because even at I would say mid-range levels, 5, 6, 7, you're going to be facing things like a Medusa or Catoblipas, especially when you're in first and second edition. I don't know if that carried over in subsequent, which is basically a cow with a long neck. If he gets his eyeballs looking at you, does he turn you to stone or you just die? I can't remember which one.
The bastard turned you to stone.
Right.
See, the one thing we always don't talk about when we talk about spells or wizards is this little thing that the DM has for about 70% of the mid to high level threats have this thing called spell resistance or magic resistance. And I like the version that they brought out in third edition and Pathfinder especially. I'm not a big fan of the second ed. Hackmaster did second edition right. And so, like, basically, you would roll your percentile dice and you would modify it for level spell in your favor versus what you were attacking, which had a set static number for MR. And you had a better chance with higher level spells to break through, which was nice. If you're using a 9th level spell, you should have a 45% chance adjusted to break through a Tanari's various spell buffers.
Right.
And I like that. It's a thing that you really can't get away with as a wizard. You have to have something in your favor to help stack your deck, because otherwise you're not going to be effective with a bunch of spells that option the spell resistance to be rolled. And you're going to lose a lot of spells to spell resistance if you don't plan accordingly for your character build.
Right. So you can't just run around with a bunch of targeted spells that, especially high level.
Yep.
You should be prepared to help out the party and switch up your game plan when you have the number of spells that your high level casters have, you can afford to have a couple of different strategies built in instead of just, pounding the opposition with your combat spells. I think in third edition, a lot of people had kind of shown, except with some maybe edge case spells, the casters were more effective at controlling the battlefield.
Oh yeah.
than direct damage anyway.
Yeah. Battlefield control is always better than direct damage.
Right. Which a lot of these save or die, save or suck type spells are anyway. Sleep is definitely a battlefield control spell. But you don't have to kill the folks you sleep. You could just tie them up.
Yeah.
Slow is like that, and confusion as well. Those are ones we haven't even talked about. Slow and cast in combination. It's really great. And web, yes, Baron. Web is great.
Grease, stinking cloud.
Yeah. Can have a better chance of affecting a lot more creatures, and instead of just targeting one with a lightning bolt or magic missile.
Fog cloud.
Fog cloud.
If you need to reposition, you drop fog cloud.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, those save or die spells I think are really important. Or save or suck spells are super important in your repertoire. You have to have them. You really do.
Your enemies is slave labor. Where are we getting that from?
Oh, because putting to sleep.
Well, I guess yeah. You put them to sleep, and then you tie them up, and then they're now yours. They're part of the treasure.
Yeah, exactly. Give them to the the local Shanghaiers, and when they come to, they're on a boat.
Or you can use them to be trap finders.
Exactly. Build a bridge out of them.
Well, especially if you have a convenient charm person in your back pocket. You can do them one at a time.
Yeah, you're my best friend. I'm your best friend.
I'm your best friend.
Go open that door for me, best friend. Yeah, charm person. Yeah. When you use Dread is great.
Yeah, some versions of charm person are less effective than others, but as long as you're making a reasonable command, they're going to follow it.
Yeah.
Which is another save or suck.
Yeah.
Charm person
was another save.
In earlier versions, once they failed their saving throw, they could be your charmed buddy for a long time, months and months. It wasn't just a matter of rounds like it is in your newer versions of the game.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, that could be like you said, a good charm cast at high level. That guy's your friend for years.
Yeah, I think one of the things that the newer versions have in their spell design is they're so geared for the combat session, for the combat scene, that they have little effect outside of combat. A lot of spells, because they only last a number of rounds a lot of times. I mean, there's some spells that last longer than that, and I'm not real familiar with 5th edition, but it seems like that's the way a lot of them went. I mean, OG, you're a little more familiar with 5th edition than we are.
Yes.
Are there many spells that are that can be effective outside of combat that have long durations?
I mean, not like before.
Yeah, back in the day, they had spells that were a day per level.
Yeah,
or permanent.
There are some like the spells that create things. You can still what's the one that makes create food, or
Hero's Feast. Sorry about
that. Stuff like that.
Hero's Feast.
Once you make that berry or make that bowl of goop, it'll last. Once you cast that wall of stone, that wall of stone's there. It's never going away. but a lot of the other spells are a lot shorter because they're meant to be combat spells. A lot of the thinking was not along the lines of campaign altering spells. It was a lot of the spells are designed to just be one and done, cast a spell, and then cast my infinite amount of cantrips. If you throw a well designed wizards against a DM who's used to D&D 5e, then you can completely dominate the campaign just by saying, well, I didn't memorize any combat spells. All I memorized was battlefield control spells, which don't have any saves. Save against my wall.
Right. I get that. So maybe they just kind of stirred the pot and made different spells more effective or more your go-to.
The 5th edition, before it got ruined, was an attempt to recapture a certain feel, which it had, but it also wanted to appeal to the video game crowd and still have that same, what they tried to do with 4th, but failed. So it had that sense of nostalgia, the sense of, oh, this reminds me a lot of 3rd and 2nd. It feels very comfortable to playing 5th. It's simple, it's fast, the spells feel like they used to be, but there's also a lot more cinematic and a lot more short-term spells. And of course, the Saver Suck was completely gone because nobody wanted to place somebody in a position where their character was, held because it might trigger something. So for like the first 2 years, 5e was fine. It was what Dungeons and Dragons should have been at that point in time, going the direction that they were going. If you just completely ignore 4th,
I get what you're saying. They follow a progression. Right.
If you go 3rd through 5th and ignore 4th, the progression feels natural. And for the first 2 years, Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro was playing their cards very close. You saw like 2 books that came out the first year, and hardly any adventures. There were no splat books. There was very little errata. There was nothing that they were playtesting. They wanted to see how people were doing, and they wanted to see how they could compete with Paizo. And then after that 2-year gap where they saw, okay, yeah, we're doing okay, that's when everything just went to,
Yeah, I remember the
it
initial
became the disaster that we're complaining about now.
Right. I remember the initial release, and they were like, "Yeah, we're not going to really make a bunch of books because that was the problem from early on." It's like, yeah, it was really, and yeah, it didn't take. It took them a few years, like you're saying, to grow beyond that. I wonder if that was something that they kind of in the back of their minds they were planning on, and they were just biding their time because they did have to get market share back from Paizo.
Oh, there's no question. Yeah, they had to see if they still had an audience.
Right.
They didn't know. They had so lost their audience with 4th. 5th was a Hail Mary. There was a lot of concern on their part that they wouldn't capture the nostalgia crowd back, that the name didn't have the punch that it did 4 years before because everything was Pathfinder or OGL. And 4th, you mentioned 4th and somebody tries to strangle you. So the first 2 years of 5th, they were very careful, very cautious. They still had some respect for the IP and some respect for the audience, and they realized the disaster that they had made with 4th. And then they're like, we're making money. Let's just see what we can get away with.
I wonder if also had to do with a thing that has happened across many industries where certain sorts of people got into the HR departments. And once those sorts of people got there and had the ability to hire like-minded people who wanted to.
I'm sorry.
Right. If they wanted to impose is probably not the right word, but they wanted to, uh, um, for lack of a better word, impose their worldview onto the game. I mean, it's not like Wizards didn't have progressives in it already. It didn't seem like they were all that hell bent on expressing that through the game. Even Paizo wasn't for a while. I mean, you didn't see it in the game as much as when they started their second edition version and had the big, page 3 or page 4 debacle with their
page 6 actually.
Page 6, right?
We're gonna make sure that every table that you set up is a safe space,
right?
For players, and we're not gonna have anybody feeling marginalized like back in the old days. And I'm thinking, wait, it was the gamers of the old days that opened their tables to everybody. You have transvestites sitting next to Bible thumpers, next to people that just want to kill orcs, and they all want to do one thing, and that was level up and get magic items.
Exactly. Yeah. We don't want anybody to feel marginalized. The only people that are making people feel marginalized is you by saying there are people who feel marginalized, because nobody felt marginalized. I was there. Nobody felt marginalized.
Right. I mean, there could be edge cases, like in all things.
Yeah.
But I don't even know anybody that knows anybody that marginalized players. They're like, you want to play? We have a table.
Yep. The only marginalization was either if they were an asshole or if they just didn't fit your group. It's like, you don't fit our group. Let's need you a different game.
And everybody was cool with that. I mean, you might have some hurt feelings over, I can't play at your table, but that's about it. Yeah, I think the role-playing industry is like every other one. They have their hiring practices, and once they got the wrong people in the right positions, things just have gone in that direction.
It doesn't hurt or doesn't help the general populace of hobby players that most of us don't give a shit about Tumblr.
Right.
And those are the two main forms of indoctrination that they're using. And most of us don't want to be part of it. We want to just play. Leave me the fuck alone and tell me when you've got your new Splat book ready because I want to buy it. But they don't want to do that. They want to make sure that you're not a Yahtzee. And that's crazy.
Correct. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the stuff that is the representation issues that are just getting under, I would say, it's hard to say whether it's more players that are getting under their skin rather than folks that are embracing it. It's hard to say. I would like to say that it's more people that it's getting under their skin, but they're still willing to buy the books because, well, it's D&D, so I got to have books.
Yeah, completionists.
Right. And
I like. Go ahead.
For those few people that are here that are already subscribed.
Thank you.
So, while we are on that subscribe tip, we have the OGGM.
I'm the OGGM.
Why don't you pimp out your stuff?
Okay, for those of you who are not subscribed to my blog yet, subscribe. If I hit 1,000 subs by January 1st, I'll plug in the camera because so many people complain they have to. My channel is mostly dedicated to news and some commentary and sarcasm regarding the news, occasional reviews, but mostly I just report on what's going on in the tabletop hobby and try and remain at least somewhat impartial. I do have my soapbox I go on occasionally, but more often than not, I'm just talking about this is what's going on in the industry. I just report it. It's not my fault. Don't get mad at me. Sometimes I make mistakes and some people call me out and I'm more than happy to fix them. But in general, I just want to be the guy who just lets you know what's going on and then tries to explain it to people in language they could understand, like the whole Wizards of the Coast lawsuit thing. So that's what my channel does. It's mostly news, stuff like that. So subscribe.
Did you make a video about the lawsuit issues?
I've made three.
Three so far. Okay.
3 so far regarding the weirdness of the lawsuit, which is now changed yet again.
Right, because you had the one lawsuit, which they ended up dropping.
TSR 3.5 dropped their lawsuit.
But then I've heard that Wizards has started one against TSR.
Well, they filed it on the 6th. It hit the docket today, which is why the news went up today.
Okay.
And it's a 2-part lawsuit, which again, you need to do 2 separate lawsuits. You have a better chance. But the first part of the lawsuit is saying, since so many people associate the name TSR with Dungeons and Dragons, and we own Dungeons and Dragons, we should have the copyright to TSR as well, because the people who are associated with TSR right now are doing things that take away from the hobby. So that's the first part of the lawsuit, more or less.
Okay, and Bruce Lombardo, why don't you pimp out your stuff?
All right. Well, my name is Bruce Lombardo, and I am a friend of our friend Comics Division, and just showing them the merch real quick. I want you for Dick's Division. Okay. And I'll show the merch for Legion of Myth, because truth is the new hate speech.
Yeah. That's your merch?
That's merch from Legion of Myth, actually.
Legion of Myth, okay.
Yep. So anyway, I think it's important to support your friends. Once you guys get your own merch going, I'll be buying mugs and tumblers and such off you too. What I'd like is to just talk to you about my YouTube channel. I sent you a DM on Discord, which has my link in it. It goes to my channel. That channel's been around for a few years, and I could always use a few more subs if you like a hot take opinion. What you see here is basically what you get in majority of streams. Bruce is painting figurines. I occasionally will show my face where I throw on an obnoxious Bob Ross wig, and I talk about things, or maybe I just do my Bob Ross impression, and we have a nice chill stream. And we do things like that, and sometimes I'll be doing a stream, and our friend Shauner will come in and say, my audio sounds like shit, he'd unsubscribe. But we have a good time. And I do live streams for my gaming every 3 weeks. So if you want to see a DM lose control of his table, you're more than welcome to show up and watch me. I do a really good Matt Mercer impersonation where the players have more run of the table than I do. But we're getting through it. And it's an enjoyable campaign, one I've set in Frog God Games universe, because I love Frog God Games' world of Lost Lands.
Oh, yeah, great setting.
Yeah, it is. And it's home to the 2 campaigns I love the most, which one of them is a campaign called the Slumbering Czar Saga, one of the coolest campaigns ever. And that's a campaign that actually fired off the company and got them what they have because they used it as a Kickstarter to get their offices set up. And then the second campaign is actually just a giant book in the world called Rapanathuk. And as much as people that play 5th edition versions of Rapanathuk might say they've beaten it, 5th edition is not it's not a real good system to use lethality and try to judge a system, because it's far too easy to keep a character alive. So before 5th ed came out, nobody had officially beaten Rapanathuk. And when I say official, I mean like with actual characters where they went level by level, room by room, and did raids and actually had tactical thinking. In 5th edition, things can get a little dicey. There's some splat books out there which make you want to buy other books, which make you want to buy other systems if you're a DM. Anyway, that's me. I'm Bruce. Come see me. Thank you for joining us tonight at Biggus Geekus podcast. We are one of the coolest podcasts on the web, though. And I would say that to anybody because you guys need to be a subscriber.
Oh, you said the word.
Subscribe.
Subscribe to
Or
Biggus
Earthdawn, which word?
Geekus.
Rapaneth. That is, I have the first version, I believe, that was released.
The 3-book set.
3-book set. And I have to say, there is a path to victory, but there are many, many paths to death. That you could just accidentally end up in this one layer, and I don't see how you make it out unless you run.
Yeah, it is a classic, old school mega dungeon slogathon. Hundreds and hundreds of pages of information. Level was like, was it 13 levels?
More like 15 or 16 now because they've added some.
And
Right, and there's like
several sub-levels.
Sub-levels, lots of sub-levels. There's a whole orc city as well.
Gresnek. City of the Orcs.
And if I don't know if they have, I'm putting up the Biggus Geekus links here because I have them all, and they will be in the show notes as well. There's a wand that has 50 charges of Meteor Swarm, if you can find it. Now, I don't know what the 5th edition version of Rapaneth has in it. I'm sure it doesn't have that because the magic items in 5th edition got pretty nerfed.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure it's something okay. I'll tell you I think the one magic item that wasn't nerfed that I have experience with in 5th edition is the Vorpal sword. But if you have that, it's one of your three. What's the word? What's attuned items, which is fun. I don't like that mechanic at all.
How to follow on Twitch? There's only 7 so far. BG needs 50 followers, 8 streamed on 7 different days, and 3 concurrent viewers over 30 days for monetization.
Thanks, Shads.
Oh, I didn't know that was the calculation there.
There's your recipe.
So 7. Oh, I thought I would have 4. There's 7 now. Okay, that's great.
Well, I'm following you now, so it should be 8. Unless I am number 7.
I can refresh that particular tab. Yeah, well, it says 7.
Oh.
So you were maybe 7. So 7. Well, that's.
So I only need 40 some odd more to go. And you need to stream for 8 hours over 7 days, and then have 3 viewers remain loyal for 30 days to get Twitch monetization.
Yeah. Followers, I believe, of this. The other stuff is doable just by doing it. Well, at least the 8 hours streamed on 7 different days. That's a doable thing. I can just do that. But the other stuff needs cooperation from other people. At least 30 or 43 more. That'll take time.
Please subscribe to Biggus Geekus.
A never-ending quest for monetization.
I feel that as somebody who's had a YouTube channel for 12 years. 379 subscribers. Woo!
I wonder if it'd be quicker if we could put out some kind of product, some sort of gaming product. That might happen before we have enough subscribers to actually make a difference here on Twitch or on YouTube. YouTube requires a lot more. requires a lot more.
OGGM, mute your YouTube, please, or your thank you.
Yeah, I think you need 1,000 subscribers on YouTube to even.
For some reason, 1,000 is the magic number on YouTube.
That's a lot.
4,000 watch hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I've got a quarter of that, and I've got a third of the viewers or subscribers, so I'm on my way.
Aaron's got over 1,000 of all people. I guess they think he's cute.
Shadzar says, just do unboxing videos on Twitch.
Oh,
that is one way to do it.
I guess I've never understood why those people like those.
They want to see what they're getting, or it's the curiosity or the ASMR or whatever.
Get a camera like this one here. It's an IPEVO. It's a 4K camera. It's got a crappy microphone, so don't use that. But you set it up, and it's about 10 inches or 12 inches high, and you can set your product underneath it and enjoy. You can just enjoy the subscriber count going up.
I already did my unboxing of Twilight 2000.
You have to have some disposable income to do those unboxings, and mine, I did get a couple of small books. I can't do an unboxing because I've already taken them out of their original shipping containers, but I can at least show them to people. I got a book. I already showed this on another episode. I got World of the Last Sun.
Nice.
It's a nice sized book it's a gonzo setting, and it has some interesting. It's a fun read so far. And I got a reprint of because I didn't want to pay $50 for a very old book. The Principalities of Glantry.
Oh,
it has three. It's a reprint, so it was only $20.
That's a good book. I always like Prometheus myself and the Grand Duchy of Thay, but
it would be nice to have that. I had years ago. I had probably half of those gazetteers, and then I went on a selling frenzy and don't have them anymore.
Things.
Huh?
Why do we do that? Why do we just do stupid things?
Right.
Well, because if it's a choice between keeping my books and starving, I'll sell my books.
Well, typically, yes. I guess maybe I'm one of the few lucky people that I have a vocation that will never go out of business. And for those of you that are wondering what I do, I drive a septic tank truck, and I pump grease traps and septic tanks. So, yeah.
As long as people are pooping, you'll have a job.
Yeah, exactly. As long as we have people, I'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm reminded of the Red Green Show. I can't remember the name of the company, but one of the regular characters on there was blah blah blah's sewer sucking service.
Yes,
it's a good show. It's one of I imagine if someone tried to make that show these days, it would be way different because it was a bunch of white guys from Canada in a hunting lodge. It's a great show. My summer job video was based on a Finland version of Bruce.
I know. Okay, yeah, my summer job at the video game. Yeah.
It's a video game.
Yeah.
Oh, video game, right?
And yeah,
that sounds like fun. I know that sounds stupid, but that sounds like a fun game. I think if you want to get some good subscribers on Twitch, do a couple of unboxings if you have the disposable income. But I actually think if you just find, there's a free game called Path of Exile, and most potatoes and toasters will run that. It's not too high of requirements. It's a pretty game too.
What's it called again?
Path of Exile.
Path of Exile.
It's
Sounds familiar.
It's a Diablo.
It's Diablo-esque.
Oh, okay.
I recommend that you just play and stream that, and you should have a lot of subscribers, a lot of followers, and you're going to find that there's a lot of guides. I would recommend going through the guides as a stream. Go through the newest beginner guides that are highly rated, and you'll figure out as you're tabbing between the game and then tabbing between the guides, you'll start putting two and two together. And then after about 2 hours, fire it up and start the game, create a character, and start rolling, and you'll get the hang of it pretty quick. But there's some guides out there to help you make really overpowered characters, and the paths you have to take, because they call it paths because all the skills that you level up in game are on one skill tree. But
yeah, the skill tree is amazing.
Skill tree is great, and it has different locations for each of the characters. So some characters will have more access to doing higher mana spells. Some characters will have more strength because they're melee based. It's a really good game that gives you customization in spades. So I do recommend it. I try that, do a couple streams of it, and you should have an increase in your subscriber count. And Shadzar's like, you don't need income. We could unbox stuff you already own. Make Randy show off some of his unboxed or boxed first edition sets. Then just play the video as a media source in OBS as you talk it over on camera.
Yeah, I'm going to type this down.
Look at Shadzar being all smart and stuff.
Well, this is a new game. This is a new game for me.
I know.
This whole online thing.
I don't understand the first thing.
Podcasting in and of itself isn't isn't necessarily a hard thing to do. Get in front of a camera and talking, because Randy and I, that's what we do anyway. We get together, we talk about the game, and our podcast is essentially just putting us in front of a camera and doing what we did anyway. So it's just there's only going to be so many people interested in that, I think.
Yeah,
maybe,
true.
But I don't think we don't need a bunch. I mean, you get 1,000 folks that like you a lot, then you can work with that. You don't need 1 million people like some people do.
Yeah,
or some people.
I think you hit on the head there.
Path of Exile. All right. I have it written down because if I don't, I will forget it.
It's from Grinding Gear Games. It's free to download. It's free to play.
Is it a Steam game or is it just standalone?
No, it's on Steam.
Either or. You could play it on Steam or you could play it through Grinding Gear's website. But Steam is a easier way to network with everybody.
Yeah.
So you think it's superior to do?
Superior to which?
You think Steam is superior? I mean, is it a web-based game?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But you could interact with that and you show people. It's Shadzar says it's discount Diablo, but I actually think it's superior to Diablo 3 and Diablo 2. Diablo 2 is a happy game for me. I have a happy set of memories of it, but I don't want to play it again. Path of Exile, they come out with new seasons, new content, lots of different things happening on Path of Exile every year.
Yeah.
Oh, even though it's free, is it one of those free to play, and then you could throw in a bunch of money to make you more successful?
No, you don't become more successful. What happens is you get bling or various effects put on your body, or maybe you'll leave little lava footprints behind you, but you never get mechanical benefits for the
No.
So it's not a play to win type scenario.
No.
Or pay to win.
No. It's a pay to look good.
Okay.
All the cosmetics are paid for, and that's how Grinding Gear mostly supports it. All the stuff is done. All the items are done through trade auctions. But instead of trading with gold, like you do in WoW. It's all trade for materials.
Yeah, the materials in that game that drop.
Because crafting is a huge thing in that game.
Yeah, that's their economy.
And I know a lot playing MMOs back in the day, EverQuest, people really love their character being decked out. So I can imagine that's and people will pay for it, I'm sure.
Oh my god. Yeah, they pay a lot of money to look good on that game. I've put $75 into the game for my own self, but that was mainly just to increase my guild stash because I've got a guild. I don't play it that often, but we have like 12 tabs, 15 tabs in our guild stash.
Right. I get what you're saying. Yeah. Pay to be able to store more stuff. Gotcha.
Yeah, and our like my main character is a 72 level. My best friend's main character is 88th, 89th, somewhere around there. And we're kind of high level, but I don't play it enough to give a shit. I've played it for 10 years.
Gotcha.
Baron also says, look at Epic every week. Epic Game Store. They give away free games all the time.
I have Epic on my computer. I just haven't done a lot with it. I can't remember what game there was. Oh, what's the name of this game? I can't remember. There's a game that I got turned on to, and it's all right, but it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's an MMO. It's kind of, in my opinion, kind of directionless play. It's difficult to figure out what you're supposed to do. You know, you talk to everybody, I guess, but they don't really, doesn't seem to point you really very well. Which I guess it's not a huge problem. You just go around and do stuff.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at on Skyrim. I could just talk to one of 6 or 7 people and I have an adventure for the next 15 minutes and then I'm done. All right, fast travel back home. What am I doing now?
Right.
Baron G Rocks, I can get older games for not much money on Good Old Games, which is one of my favorite sites. I really like GOG, actually.
GOG. I haven't looked at that site in a long time.
Shadzar, I'm not 89th level. My character is 72. And now Chris's character is 89th level. And the big Greg, he's 81st. But those guys play a lot.
Adventure Quest 3D is the game I was trying to remember.
Adventure Quest 3D.
It's okay. I would say it's kind of bland. But I'm not a big video game player either. I'm more of a casual gamer. So if I'm going to play a video game, I'd like it to be able to be set up for me to just jump in for a little bit and jump out. But
yep.
But a lot of MMOs, you gotta do the raid thing, and that's hard to do. I got froze again. Surprise. Maybe if I can figure out what my lag issue is, it's probably my ISP. And there's not a whole lot I'm going to be able to do about that.
Yeah, I think it's your ISP because you have this happen about once every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other Saber suck spell items we want to talk about? Yeah, you guys want to talk about before I hit my final thing? I want to nail this in the coffin while I like casters.
Oh,
sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's bring this puppy home.
I am a fan of spell components in a game. Now, there's certain abilities like a shoe spell in Pathfinder where you pretty much don't have to worry about spell components under the cost of a gold piece. You just need to, like, I spend a day and I get these spell components because I have a shoe spell, which means I don't have to go out and buy them or, go on a quest to procure fucking dove feathers. You just have them. You just acquire them. It's kind of like if you are a drug addict and you are in Austin, Texas, You come up with drugs at the end of the night. It's just one of those things that will happen to you. Okay. So I'm just saying, like, you have these abilities like that, but I love spell components in games. And in third level, like a third level spell for casual gaming would be like a piece of quartz rod for a lightning bolt spell. Or
Yeah.
you want to go adventure for, well, you don't really need to adventure for Baguano if you've got a shoe spell, but you need these spell components. And I think that if you're having trouble as a DM, if you have casters that are whipping your ass through the game, what you need to do is just you need to enforce the spell components rules and then just kind of notate on the maps where players could procure these things. And that's where you could throw monsters and difficult encounters or some role-playing possibilities for players that can't role-play their way out of a wet paper bag. You want to do things like that and make your characters work for every fucking piece of experience points they get. You don't want your players to coast through the game and just level up because they're on a treadmill that makes them fatter. No, this is not how you win. You don't win a game when it's just on autopilot. That's called 4th edition D&D. That's not what we want to play. And I hate for calling out that game so poorly. For a game that made great board games, the game sucked as a tabletop RPG. Anyway, enforce spell components. Make those mandatory. You will find love for the game, and your players will actually have an idea of how they want to go at being in your world, because they will try to set up ways to have spell components delivered, or they'll join a guild to where they can get packages filled with these things already pre-set up. Kind of like, I hate to say the weekly medication boxes that you see people get, but they'll buy these things from their guild. So as a DM, you can put these things together and say, like, well, here's this package here for the enchanter. Here's this package for the invoker. Here's this package for this for the universalist wizard. And here's the cut prices for it. And we're giving you a discount because you're a guild member. And you can just totally fuck your players over. So, and that's what you want to do. You want to make your characters poor. You never will have fun with the game if they are swimming in gold and diving into piles of platinum coins like Scrooge McDuck. Do not let them do that. Make them work for their game, and you will have a much more rewarding time at the table.
Well, this is the gold thing is a bit of a conundrum when you have so many things costing lots of money, and treasure hoards, especially in modules. I know that's the M word for some people. The haul from your average first edition module, gold wise, was tremendous.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
So, but you did have things planned in the game for you to spend it on. One of those things was getting your castle or tower or some other domain. So you didn't just spend it all the time, but it did give you a comfortable living. But yeah, I see what you're saying there. The other thing that components can do, even if you don't use the standard ones, it can show your world off.
Yeah.
So yes, and recruit hired help. So when you have retainers, they're not cheap.
No.
So that's something else, and they're useful. It's nice to when you've had a hard day in the dungeon, you come back to camp, and you have a nice hot meal ready for you. And your horses are taken care of. Your tent is well appointed, and your sleeping bag has been fluffed a little bit. I mean, it's all good.
Or maybe they went to the inn and bought you a bed warmer, and she's snoring peaceably, waiting for you to come and wake her up.
Oh, you're not talking about one of those little things with coals that you would put underneath?
I was talking about the other kind of bed warmer. All I want to see on my pillow is those 2 chocolates.
But yeah, but the spell components, you could make the spell component issue somewhat exotic and present a part of your world as the DM that's a little more interesting than just, well, for the web spell, you got to eat a spider. I mean, that's kind of gross.
Spider climb after that, though. Come on now.
I wonder, I need to look at that component because they might be the same. I mean, imagine carrying live spiders.
You had to swallow a pearl. There was one way to swallow a feather.
Yeah, the wizard's intestinal tracts got to get wrecked after a while. No wonder they don't have any hit points.
I was 3rd level, and it was getting costly to buy all the items at the pharmacist.
Say that again?
I was 3rd level, and my con had dropped to 6 because of all the times the spider bit me on the inside of my mouth.
Yeah. Okay, you're not supposed to grab a black widow. Common house spider, good enough.
How did you get rabies, sir? Well, bat guano. You got to go get from the bats.
Yeah, how can you carry live spiders around for too long? I mean, okay, so Randy has a story he could tell a little better, but he caught a spider in his house, a weird looking spider, and it was in a jar or a box or something like that. He caught it in, rescued his wife from certain death, and then he forgot about it. And I don't know how long he said it was later, a week, maybe 2. He's like, oh, there's that spider there. And he opens the thing and it's still alive and hungry, apparently. So I wonder, as long as you got it in something that it isn't going to get crushed, they might live for a while. They may not need to eat.
I had a tarantula when I was in the Navy, and every time I'd take the top off of the aquarium, that little thing would just, like, those 2 front legs immediately wanted to dance. I'm like, no, I'm not putting my hand in there. Here's some crickets. And that was it. I put the top back on. I realized how much of a bad idea it was to have that as a pet.
Some people say that you can let it crawl around on you. It's no big deal. A tarantula, right? You said?
Yeah, a tarantula. It was about the size, about that big around.
Yeah.
I let it out a couple times. It didn't really hurt me, but it did try to rake its pinchers or the fangs on my skin, and he couldn't penetrate. I guess I had thick skin or something, but this he was testing me for about maybe 5 minutes, and then he just kind of scampered off. And you can do that now apparently on YouTube. My tarantula would mainly just chase crickets around the room, because after he got done crawling around on me, he'd be like, okay, I can't eat this man. And I'd undo the cup top and let the crickets out of the coffee cup, and the tarantula would chase things around. My roommates did not like it that I had him loose in my room.
Yeah, well.
They were upset.
Right.
And then whenever I was in South Texas over by Asherton, which is a small town with a bunch of trailers that Fractech Services rented out. And one night I was walking to my little trailer, and there's this 8-inch diameter tarantula, and not 8-inch diameter, but 8 inches with the legs, probably a 3-inch body and abdomen. And he looked just powerful. And as I'm walking on the planks into this place, I realize I'm in their environment. I'm no longer in my own. I'm not in San Antonio. And this thing's looking at me, and I looked at it, and I went in my trailer, and I kind of shut the door and locked the door, and then stuffed the rug up against the bottom of the door. And I'm not arachnophobic, but when I saw this thing, like, I got the idea that it was thinking about it. I could eat for days on that fat guy.
All it has to do is knock you out some kind of way.
Yeah, I know. So,
did you see this comment I put up?
I've seen people teach tarantulas to do stuff like shaking hands and stuff. Yeah, I saw that, and I thought, I've seen that on YouTube a lot. If I knew about that when I was 19 and 20, I would have done something stupid like, give me your leg, and I probably would have, like, yanked the leg off. I have a 7-legged spider now.
Well, you can just get another one. You'll never know the difference.
They were fun pet. He was interesting when I was a young guy. I didn't realize how much fun I had with him, but I did have fun with that pet. I gave him away before I went off to the shores of Europe, though, because that was a 6-month deployment, and my neighbor was wanting it. So okay, here you can have it. It's about as far as it went. He had been with me for about 4 months, and I liked it.
Well, I guess they're less maintenance than, say, a dog. You don't have to take the trench out for a walk. I mean,
No,
you could. It might be a spectacle, but you don't need to.
what are you doing with that kite string, young man? I could hear that. We had a very judgmental neighbor. He was funny.
All right. So, does the OG GM have any final spell casting wisdom?
If I could impart any spellcasting wisdom on anybody who's thinking about running a spellcaster and adventuring as a spellcaster, is remember, if they fail their saving throw, their stuff is probably gone. So if you want to loot the bodies, don't blow them up. Battlefield control spells.
Yeah, I became a big fan of those, as opposed to the damaging ones.
Yeah, don't damage them, because you know what? That fireball, there goes all this money.
Well, I've had DMs, they would be like, okay, you fireballed them, they're dead. Let's roll to see what your fireball destroyed as well, as well.
Yeah. Items had to make saving throws, so yeah.
Well, that was a thing back in the 1E, 2E days. You get hit by a breath weapon or acid attack, you'd have to figure out what of your equipment was remaining. So Meteor Swarm, is the 2 pounds, does it have 2 pounds of lava as a material component?
I think first ed had that. I think first edition had Meteor Swarm required 2 pounds of lava, and one of my friends, he said that whenever I cast that, I could just conjure a Remorhaz first, because the hot back has elements of lava on it.
How do you carry around 2 pounds of lava? I mean, you'd need a bucket.
Yeah, a very strong bucket.
It'd be an Elven bucket.
And then at that point, you're just like, why don't I could just dump my lava on the guy. I don't even need to cast the spell. I just sploosh. Okay, that was way easier. What was I thinking memorizing spells? Buckets of lava are the future, son.
Meteor Swarm doesn't have a material component. So
really? I thought that was
first edition it didn't. Maybe in some other edition.
Okay.
But not first edition. It just has verbal and somatic. You call down the meteor.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's a 9th level spell. You need a material casting component for that. I'm sorry. That's fine. That's fine.
I mean, but that you could as the DM impose that.
Yeah, you could say the material component of Meteor Swarm is you have to have a chunk of meteor.
Oh, and here's a 9th level spell, Big Beast Crushing Hand. Very, very nice spell. Yeah. It's a glove of snakeskin in the shell of an egg. I mean, it's nothing special.
Yeah. For
components. There's just some spells that have wild components.
The Identify spell used to require like a 200 or 800 gold piece pearl.
Yep, and you had to swallow it.
Yeah.
Shape Change has a 5,000 gold piece material component that shatters at the end of the duration of the spell. Yeah. So every time you cast Shape Change, you spend 5,000 gold. So
same thing with any of the resurrections or raised dead.
Yeah, they're expensive.
Yeah, those are
a 1,000 gold piece gem. It's expensive being a wizard. That's okay, because at first level you were getting 600-700 gold pieces, so you just save up.
Well, Shadzar, the Hackmaster 5th edition bestiary and the 4th edition bestiaries for Hackmaster gave you the spell component yield for each creature in those collections. That's the one thing I like about Hackmaster.
Yeah, the 5th edition monster book is really nice for Hackmaster.
Yeah, I need to get a hold of that because I'm a fan.
It's kind of like it's called the Hacklopedia of Beasts. So it has encyclopedia like entries, and like a lot of 5th edition has like Volo's Guide and a couple other well-known like monster documenters. So there's a documenter, a group that's kind of the lore in Hackmaster that is that are the characters behind some of the write-ups, or all the write-ups in the Hacklopedia Beast. You know, it's fictional, cool. fictional characters that are like, this is our opinions and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
Are you a Hackmaster fan?
Oh, I've been a Hackmaster fan since before it was an actual system.
Okay.
Back in the day when it was just talked about in Knights of the Dinner Table, and when I found out they were making the game, I was like, I need to get that. Never really played it though.
We played Hackmaster 4E to 3rd level. Most of us were 3rd level. There was a 4th level or 5th level thief, but that was a very fun and interesting game. But man, if you rolled crappy on the hindrances and flaws, oh buddy. And we had a fighter that had only one arm. Yeah.
I rolled up a character in the 5th edition version, and he's missing fingers. Yep. How many fingers are you missing? 4. Oh, great. So one hand it's all off of one hand, maybe 3. It makes the one hand kind of useless.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite systems that nobody plays. I do like 5th edition quite a bit. In fact, I'm using the speed factor from 5th edition for the 3rd edition rewrite that I'm doing for D&D. So I like that better than by rounds. I like it by the second. And therefore, like if you've got a dagger, you might attack every 6 seconds. Or if you've got a great sword, you might get an attack off every 12 seconds. Or I'm casting Meteor Swarm. Well, that'll be in about 15 seconds because you're slow or you stammer. Things like that. I think it's great. I really do.
Yeah, I like I've played through one time the 5th edition initiative system just to see what it was like. The promise of it, well, Chadsar has something up here about the magic shop, and we need to talk about that because that's an important, I think, element that 3rd edition brought in that kind of ruined the game. But the thing that I liked reading about the 2nd by 2nd initiative is it provides a more dynamic scrum-like fight.
Yeah.
Like Max talks about. But I think there's an easier way, I think, to do it is just to roll your initiative every round. And then it changes and it's more scrum-like that way. But I do like the way it looks on paper. I've only played through it once and it was real clunky, but that's only because I only played it the one time. I only ran it the one time. I didn't know it very well. Anyway, the magic shop thing, even a cleric had, before the magic shop, a cleric even had to work up to use some things. Yeah, because a lot of their high level magic had some expensive material components. I think the resurrection was diamonds.
Yes.
Expensive diamonds. But in 3rd edition, you basically had the magic item economy, the magic shop.
Yeah.
And I think it was a bad move.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm going to lay the finger of blame at Monty Cook because I think he's the reason why we have the magic shop economy in 3.0 and onward from there, because you have these the desire for the characters built into the game from Monty. He wanted you to be able to buy everything within 15 minutes that you needed, and you'd have like a 15 or 30-minute adventuring day where you went to do your memorizations, you prepared yourself, got armored up with a party, and then you went down to the dungeon and you hacked apart some things in the sewers or in the caves. And then after you had 4 combats, you came quickly back up to the surface or wherever your solace is to rest and repair. And tomorrow you'll do this again for another 30 or 45 minutes. And they did this, and I had a problem with it because my players in 3rd edition kept literally resting between 4 and 7 encounters. They would force me, like, no, we want to rest. I'm like, God damn it. So out comes the random encounter die, and they really hated that. So the first time they had a chance to conjure Leomund's Tiny Hut or other extra dimensional reserve spells to pull them out of the fire, they would jump on that escape hatch as quickly as they could. And it kind of ruined the game for me a bit. I'm sorry, Mar Hockman. I know you find my complaining here to be music to your ears, but just how I envision it, because I thought, like, no, we'd venture until the day's done. Yeah, I can
Right.
see why the players would spam resting though. Yeah.
Right. I don't know if that was. I don't know what brought that on in 3rd edition. They didn't have the rest mechanic like 5th edition has, or 4th.
Oh no. I mean, there was always you could go and rest, but
yeah, and you had to rest
a lot longer periods of time to get way less aback.
Yeah, they had the whole 15-minute workday.
Yeah, and the magic healing was still like, the thing you needed in the old days. You could go to the inn and rest, but you're looking at 1 hit point a day. So yeah, but 5th edition, is take a nap, eat a sandwich, you're fine.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember saying, "Hey, I don't have any spells," and everybody's like, "Okay, well, we're still going. We got plenty of points.
You can carry stuff. You got hit points. Throw rocks. Yeah."
Or at some point, you might find a wand or scrolls. So there's stuff you can do.
Yeah. Just throw rocks when you run out of spells.
Direct the lesser mortals that are before you. You go do swing your sword the other way. Wizards got stuff they can do. Yeah. I don't know where the short day came from. Back in the day, we just kept going.
Just kept going,
You adventured until all of your resources were depleted. Your hit points, especially if the fighter was down to almost no hit points, you didn't have any clear healing left, any of that stuff. You went to the bitter end. And you didn't go back to town unless you really had to. You usually, you found a room with 1 exit, and you spiked the door closed, and you hope nothing was going to burrow in or break the door in. And you rested there. Right. And I think some people thought that a hit point gain per night of full bed rest. Most tried to min-max when they first saw it. Don't take damage, then don't have to rest. Mar Hockman is saying in his Hyperborea game that we'd always stop to rest anytime we thought we'd die if we got into another fight. Yeah, same kind of thing.
Yeah.
To the point where you're like, okay, we're living on the very thin edge, so it's time to rest. And different versions of the game had different ways that you get your stuff back, like spells for wizards, because 1st edition is 15 minutes per spell level. In Beckme, it's just once you get your 8 hours, you study for an hour and you're good. But 1st edition was brutal. 15 minutes per spell level. It took a long time to memorize your spells. And I don't know when overnight you cure your hit points to full. I think that came in. Was that 3rd edition?
2nd edition gave you a hit point a night, I thought.
Right. I think 1st edition was the same. So resting overnight really only got spells back. Then your cleric would heal everybody up, and then you might have to hole up somewhere for days, getting all your hit points, getting enough hit points to where you think you could, go on. When the fighter is resting in bed for 2 weeks, that is when the wizard goes and collects live spiders, acorns, and other things. That's when you get your stuff. Old D&D, in Beckme, you didn't have material components individually listed for your spells.
Oh.
It was what it was the wizard's robes was assumed to be stuffed full of weird things that you would use in the commission of your spell casting, but they weren't detailed. Does 5e even have material components, OG?
Some, but not as many as before. You still have to do the verbal and somatic. But yeah, there's still some spells that require material components, but most of them are just, cast and forget. Especially those 0 level spells. They don't need any components.
What was that last thing you just said?
Except for like those 0 level spells, then there's, no components required.
Well, yeah, you can't have components when you're spamming that thing. That's one thing. I thought I was going to like that, but it ends up I don't.
The spamming 0 level spells?
Well, one thing is the cantrips are powerful.
Yeah,
they're not just minor tricks. And I think it's a different feel for the game. If your wizard always has a powerful thing it can do, and there's you don't lose the ability to cast cantrips, right? There's no way unless there's some weird effect somewhere in the game, but it's not like if you cast all of your other spells, you can still cast your cantrips.
Oh, you could be casting Ray of Frost for days, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. Oh, I didn't know that. 4E, according to Shadzar, 4E moved all material components to rituals.
Huh. Didn't know that.
So no material components for your common spells. It creates a whole different feel to your game. You're just pointing your finger, or maybe not even doing that.
It's making it more like a video game, yeah.
Yeah. You need a bone to animate. Oh, I guess in Hyperborea.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. In Hyperborea, Mar Hockman is talking about Hyperborea. Some spells, there's this logical part of the spell. Like one is the spell apparently animates a bone to attack things. So you have to have a bone to animate.
Yep.
So that makes sense. Necromancers. I think necromancers should just be the bad guys.
I don't think so.
Uh-oh.
I don't think so, you boob.
Necromancers and witches and all the iconic bad guys should stay bad guys.
That would be great if they would. Warlocks, you converse with a demon for your spell abilities. Yeah, I would love it if warlocks stayed bad guys.
But they didn't, so.
No.
Well, I think they made a mistake with how they did sorcerers. They should just made sorcerers, since they pretty much consort some monstrous being to gain their power in some kind of way. They have a relationship through blood.
Yes.
I think they should have just went with more traditional things. What sorcerers were, which were They consorted with the infernal powers, if not even summoned them. That's what they were in the Belgariad, I believe.
Yeah.
The sorcerers they consorted with demons, and they were the bad guys. You didn't have a good guy at sorcerer. Necromancers, I mean, they animate dead. When you're dead, you should be buried or dealt with appropriately, and then your remains are sacred. A necromancer messes with the sacred. They should be pariah. Yes, and they had the Death Master as well, which some folks wanted to play as a character class, as a regular character class, but no.
I like necromancers. The book Libris Mortis is my favorite 3.5 book. Made necromancers really cool, really deadly.
I know my DM liked it. Anything to do with Randy always likes undead constructs and demons. Those are his favorite things to throw at, and dragons, of course.
You need to talk to Randy more. Sorry.
Well, hopefully we can get him to do a live stream. He's okay with doing the video, but he's much better. He's much more comfortable doing podcasting than he is doing the video part.
Sure.
All right.
Comfortable.
Yeah. All right. I think I am yawning a lot. We have been on here a little over 2 hours, which means I cannot repost this on Twitter. I mean, on Twitch, because it's too long. But
can you dice it between two? Can you cut the stream between the halfway point?
I probably could do that.
You can do it in 2.
Yeah, we'll probably break it into 2. So, is there any final words either of you want to impart before we sign off here?
Happy holidays. Support our blogs. Subscribe to everybody you see here and everybody you see in the chat. Stay safe, and
it's a silly time of the year again. So those friends of yours that are kind of loners, or they're lone, just kind of touch base with them, see how they're doing. Make sure that you don't let those guys linger and those girls linger in a mental prison, because a lot of times during the holidays, people tend to get depressed.
Oh God, yes.
In northern climes. So you want to touch base with your people, and don't forget your family as well. You want to be more of a social person from now until at least like Super Bowl Sunday. After that, go into hibernation for a few weeks. Skip Valentine's Day. It's a crappy holiday with bad chocolate, but you're going to be fine. Just make sure your friends don't become one of the 22. That's all I got to say.
Well, on behalf of Randy, who can't be here, I would like to thank OG GM and Bruce Lombardo of Dick's Division for helping me out to get Biggus Geekus on its maiden live voyage. I appreciate
Congratulations!
it.
You're now a Twitter.
I also like to thank everybody who dropped by, Shadzar and Mar Hockman, who are still here.
Garrett.
Yeah, Garrett was here earlier. I don't know if he said bye, but he hasn't posted in a while, so he must have dropped out. And to the 3 people who subscribed this evening, thank you very much. I'm going to post one more time Biggus Geekus, all of our links.
Oh, thank you.
There they are. These, please, wherever you can find us, support us, at least with your presence, with your subscription, sharing, rating, all that stuff that you normally do. We would greatly appreciate it. And if there's nothing else,
well, there is one final thing I'll say about necromancers. I was talking to Skeletor the other day, and I said, "Can you raise a good family?" He's like, "Well, you can if the plots are close enough together."
That's hilarious. All right.
Can't top that one.
And on that note,
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks,
you
Joe.
are very welcome. Very welcome. On that note, this is Joe. And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.
It's still going. Did Joe kick himself out? Joe, insert yourself back. Guys, come on now. Joe, I need you to come back and shut down the stream.
Yes, that's what I'm doing. I did it. I did the same thing last week.
It's all right. There's a